Welcome to Mama Tales, a podcast that celebrates our collective motherhood journey. I'm your host, Sally Kuria. A big welcome to everyone listening to this podcast for the very first time. I hope that you will stick around. We are on social media, so if that's your vibe, do check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for Mama Tales Podcast and you are in. I also publish a bi-monthly newsletter which features personal essays, ideas, and highlights from the podcast and the community around it. It is open to contributors, so if you have an idea, a thought, or a story you would want to write and share with this community, just let me know by reaching out to me on email at mamatalespod@gmail.com or by replying to any published issue. You can find links to all of this in the show notes of the episode or on the website, that's mamatalespodcast.com. Like I said last week, I am on a recording spree. So do you have a story that you would like to share on the podcast, or would you like a topic to be explored? Just let me know by filling in the 2 forms that are shared in the show notes of this episode, and I will take it into consideration. Today's storyteller is someone very interesting. I met her the first time at a mom event, and we kept in touch since then. She'd always wanted to be a mom and had a very strong idea on how she wanted to give birth. Listen to this.
I thought it should take maximum 10 hours. Girl, when I was at the 12-hour mark, I was like, what is going on? Still at home. 24-hour mark, please, let's not stop there. 36 hours. Then I was just like, as in, actually, what is the point of this thing? I started on Friday. I was still busy in labor on Sunday. I can't even eat properly because I've been in so much pain that I can't live on snack bars, because I was having snack bars in between because the contractions were close and stuff. I was I don't know what's the word, when you're just so tired, fatigued within my soul. I was so tired. I was getting worried, of course, at that point, because I was like, okay, am I trying to be a hero by having a home birth?
But before we get into that episode, it is time for the highlight of the week. This little nugget of time where we look back and think about the moments that have brought us a sense of joy and pride as parents. I've got a special highlight today. It's also not super parent focused, but it is mommy focused. Last evening, I spent some time with 2 ladies that I truly admire. That's Fiona Akumu and Claire Baker from the Yes Girls podcast. I love the work that these 2 do, challenging themselves to do things that might be out of their comfort zone. So I was excited when I finally had a legit reason to be on their show. Claire is pregnant and will be a mom soon, so they invited me to have a little chat on motherhood. Before then, I'd only ever been on one podcast, so it was really great being a guest in another and getting to chat about something that I really deeply care about. Towards the end of our recording, they asked me what I'd recently said yes to. And it truly irked me to say that I'd been slowly taking up running. Not running kilometers at a time, but just enough to see how much I can run in 10 minutes without absolutely hating it. I don't get the point of running, so it's the last thing you'd ever find me doing, but I'm slowly opening myself up to it. So that's my highlight. I'm not sure when that episode will be going live, but when it does, I'll be sure to let you know. Got a highlight that you'd like to share? I've made it super easy for you to do that, so just check out the link in bio on my social media as well as in the show notes of this episode to see how you can share your highlight with us. Our guest today is Ofentse, who is originally from South Africa but has settled here in Kenya with her husband who's from Bulgaria. Theirs was a wildwood romance from the very first time they met in Paris, a place that holds such profound significance in their life, so much so that they named their daughter after the city of love.
So I had gotten an opportunity to have a work trip to Europe, and my boss gave me permission to go to Paris, which I'd always dreamed of as a little girl. It was in Amsterdam, so I got a train from Amsterdam to Paris. I got to Paris. Parisians were weird, and they didn't want to speak English with me, and I felt very sad, and so I went onto Tinder to find people that would speak to me and probably take me on dates and stuff. So I had 20 matches, to be honest. And I lined them up back to back, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My husband was the second person that I met, and then I canceled the rest. And we met. We went to dance at this other club, and then we spent the rest of the holiday together. And that was the beginning of the whirlwind romance, which was long distance, and we closed the distance by coming here to Kenya.
Ofentse was looking forward to being a mom. Her own mom influenced this.
When my mom was talking about being a mom, it just sounded so cool. Like, really. She never went into the hard side of motherhood. Like, she didn't speak about that. She was so grateful for all of us. The way that she named us. Let me just give you a short story. So my name is Ofentse, which means Christ has conquered. My brother's name is Lemogang, which is look at the grace of the Lord. And my sister's name is Omolemo, which means God is good. And the reason why she gave us these names was because she experienced miscarriages between each of us. And so she really wanted to have kids, and she had her the first miscarriage, and then she had me, then she had another one, and she had my brother, then she had another one, and she had my sister. So what she would tell us is the stories of how she really wanted all three of us here, and how she was felt blessed to be a mom. And so, like, for me, this, like, she sold motherhood to me really when I was really young, and I was in awe of, you know, motherhood as a thing. And so I always wanted to be a mom. I remember wanting to be a mom as a kid, and my desire grew as a teenager. I spent a lot of time listening to radio shows and TV shows of parenting. Imagine. I would buy parenting magazines with my own pocket money and the money that I made from my little business. And I was very intentional about wanting to raise a good generation of children. I was so serious for a 14-year-old, honestly. Like, I was so serious about life. Like, I honestly wanted that. And I remember being like thinking about, the type of boyfriend that I wanted in my teenage years, that he must be a good father. Imagine. Wow. And then it kind of grew and grew as the reality came closer. When I was in university, I ran across a book called Birth. And when I read that book, it opened up my eyes to the birth side of things and birth through the ages, and really made me have a huge desire to have a natural birth. My mom's always been a proponent of natural birth. She's like, don't do the C-section. I'm like, okay, fine. But then this one, like, it made me feel so connected to the stories of women and the power of a woman's body and the fact that it's designed to do this thing. And I read a lot of positive birth stories in that, and from there also watched a lot of positive birth videos. I didn't know there was that rabbit hole on YouTube. And for me, it grew a desire in my heart to have a home birth at some point. I lived with the pastor of my church in university, and his wife had 3 home births in the span that I was living with them. And I was so fascinated that she'd be like laboring in the morning, and in the evening we're out here, you know, stroking the little baby's head. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible. And just her story inspired me so much. And I think even the way that she approached motherhood was also a huge inspiration. I don't think she knows this, but if she's listening, Laura, you inspired me, honey.
She describes the moment that she found that she was pregnant as both exciting and devastating at the same time.
Okay, exciting because we planned it, obviously, to the T. Like, we were tracking my ovulation like nobody's business. So, like, obviously we found out like literally exactly 2 weeks. Thank God for Clear Blue. But I was also open to disappointment, because I'd heard a lot of sad things about trying to conceive, and it wasn't the first time that I had, you know, started the TTC thingy and done pregnancy tests, and they came back negative. So my husband wasn't in the country. I was in South Africa. He was in France. And so we did a video call. And I was like, okay, I'm doing the test today. And then he's like, okay, cool. So then I grabbed this, the Clear Blue test, and I wanted Clear Blue specifically because no mistakes. Yeah. I don't want false positives. Yeah. And so we did the test, and the first time, okay, it's the one that comes out and says pregnant, and then it tells you how far along. Oh. And so we saw the pregnant thing, and then we both just started crying. Like, it was just such a beautiful moment, and I was so thrilled, and just, I don't know, filled with with so much joy. And then of course I was like, no, but it could be not real. Like then it shows the weeks, and I was like, oh my god, it means it's real. Like we're 2 weeks pregnant. Yeah, that was so exciting for me. Devastating side of it was I was a corporate girl, and it was 2 months before I needed to move to Kenya, and my contract was not signed yet, the offer letter, but it was verbal. And I know, I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but I know it can influence or would have influenced their decision to post me to Kenya from South Africa. And so it was devastating because I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to impact my career. Like it's going to hold me back. Already I had been held back by COVID. COVID is over. Now I'm held back by this pregnancy. So, I mean, you're not obliged to share with people at work until you are at, I think they said 20 weeks. That's when you're obliged, because then that's when you have to apply for maternity leave. And so we kept the news to ourselves and the family only until 20 weeks. And then, yeah, when I did, I got the reaction that I thought I was going to get. And there was a mixture of disappointment and maybe, I don't know, betrayal, like that some people felt in the way that they reacted. Obviously, they wouldn't say the words, but you can read the room, you know. And yeah, and that was what I was avoiding. But yeah, then that was a bit of a challenge, you know. And it kind of proved all my fears correct. And I hate the fact that it did, because I really wanted to be in like a, I don't know, progressive space. Yeah. No. Yeah. But I still don't regret, obviously, a minute. I got the contract. I moved there. I told them once I was in Kenya.
So they're like, we brought you here,
and then boom, you surprise us with these news. Like it's life, guys. I'm just gonna go on maternity leave and come back.
Yeah, it's
literally. No, it's not. So yeah, but it is what it is. Like people are the way that they are. Yeah. So you know, you can't. And I think I don't know, it just enlightened me to, yeah, your fears were correct. Your instincts were right. Like it's a good thing that you didn't, you know, lead with it. Because I always thought I was going to be that person that comes out with the 2-week thing and go online and tell everyone. I used to feel emotionally safe enough to do that. And then,
With her settlement into Kenya sorted, it was time to prepare for the birth of her daughter.
I was so nervous. I was nervous because I didn't know what to expect from the hospital system or like from the medical system. So what we did was look for a doula first, because I knew I wanted a home birth. And then I looked for a doula. I found Esther the doula. I think everybody knows her. And then I was like, Esther, I'm having a baby in December. Please, can you be my doula? And she was just like, sure, but I recommend that you see the midwife that I work with, and that was Lucy. So I contacted Lucy. We started seeing Lucy, and that was one of the best decisions that we made, honestly, because I had seen a gynae like 3 weeks or 2 weeks before Lucy, because of course I needed to go in for the regular checkup, and we only started seeing Lucy when I was 4 months pregnant. So I had to go in for the 3-month checkup with the gynae. Oh my gosh, that was so traumatic. I dislike.
Wait, what happened?
No, I just dislike the medical system and how clinical it is, right? First, okay, I go there with my husband, and then this doctor makes us wait for like an hour for her. Then we get in, and then she only gives us 10 minutes of her time. We're first-time parents. We have all these questions. We're brimming with excitement. You know, we want to understand what's happening. And obviously, she's just trying to make her monies and keep it moving. And she's just like, yeah, everything's normal, everything's fine, don't worry, yeah, no, any questions? Okay, you ask questions, but like with trepidation. Yeah. And so that's why I'm glad we got a midwife, because now we had like hour-long consultations, and we could talk about everything, like the emotional side of the pregnancy, the physical side, the spiritual side, like all of the areas. And I was so impressed when I walked into Lucy's office. She had the book Birth over there. I was just like, the same book I read. I was like, Lucy, you've read this? She's like, of course. It's like the midwife's Bible. But I was so, so happy. Like I felt an instant connection in that moment. So yeah, that was preparing for birth, and then of course we had to have a plan B in case what we wanted to do at home wasn't going to work out. And of course, Lucy being a midwife was like, yeah, that's the that's a good thing to do. And so we did some hospital visits. We went to AAR. We went to Impisha. We went to Aga Khan, and I decided Aga Khan would be my backup because the others were not giving. It wasn't it. You know, I think the thing that I enjoyed about giving or like preparing for birth in Kenya versus South Africa was the cost element because it's half the price.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Half the price. Aga Khan is half the price that you'd pay at a private hospital in South Africa.
Is it?
I have no idea why you guys have such an affordable medical system.
Okay.
100%. So when I was preparing, obviously, oh my gosh, this was also one of the tricky things because now with work, I had to choose a medical aid system, and the whole medical aid system, you have to declare. If you don't declare, they're not going to cover you at the end of the year, right? And they were trying to get me on Jubilee, a mess, because those people don't cover you if you're pregnant within a year, and so many other in medical insurances and stuff. But we landed up on a international medical insurance who doesn't have such weird restrictions. Then I was thinking of plan Bs. So I was now researching all the good hospitals. I was told Aga Khan was one of the best. So then I started researching. And I saw some of their packages were pretty good. Like you could get a prenatal package for like 150K or 200K. And that will cover you for the private ward a couple of days. Haibo, this is nice. This is so nice. Like I can pay for this myself. Like I don't have to even ask medical aid to cover it. Like I thought, because in South Africa it's like almost 400. Yeah, for a natural birth. I don't know, maybe probably even worse because I like the nurses at Aga Khan. They were very sweet. But the nurses in South Africa are another story. I mean, even the gynae visits. My gynae visit in South Africa is like a good... How much was I paying? Ooh, I remember I paid an arm and a leg. It's 15K for one visit. Yeah, 15,000 bob. One visit. And that's my guy. My gynae was like one of the best in South Africa. I liked her so much. But that's how much it cost, right? Here it was like 5K. What are you talking about? I was like, you guys, are you serious? Is this a gynae or is this like just a random GP? Like, what's happening? Shocked. Dentistry, like all of the medical things. I'm like, how do doctors make money in this country? Because their rates are so low. Wow. Like in South Africa, it's at least twice or three times. Yeah. So we did the birthing classes with Lucy. So that was on top of the consultations. We had 4 weeks of birthing classes where she talked us through like visualizing what our birth is going to look like, getting accustomed to understanding the type of pain that I might experience and how to manage that, breathing techniques, all of that stuff. And then the home birth element, of course, my husband had to get involved in terms of preparing the little water situation, making sure that we have all the needed equipment or the thing. But it wasn't too hard because Lucy has most of the things. All we had to do was buy liners and stuff from Amazon. And it was just the mental prep then of the day is coming. Let's go. And I started to get more and more nervous towards the day. That was, I don't know, because I thought I was going to be fine. Like, I think part of my prep was also hypnobirthing. I got a hypnobirthing album CD type of thing. Not CD, like, what do you call it when you just get it on your phone? App. So I got this hypnobirthing app and I was listening to the hypnobirthing tapes over and over again and just like really trusting my body that it knows what it's doing. And then the night when I started having the contractions, we also got prepared. Like we got the ambulance people just wait outside just in case. My mom was in town. My mom flew in from South Africa. She was going to be here for 6 weeks. And so she came a week before the birth. And she was helping me prep and nest and do all of that good stuff. And so she was there busy crocheting Miss Paris's, her little sweater that she was going to come out of the hospital with, and the hats and the little socks. I mean, I was a bit nervous, but excited at the same time, but also like unsure. I didn't know what to expect. I don't know how painful it was going to be or not painful, or how I would manage. Because some people are just like, oh, it just slipped out. Like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm going to be one of those slip out people. But I was not one of those slip out people. That one I can tell you. For free. Yeah, but I was just hella nervous. And then we were listening. This is what I loved about it. So it started at home, which is really nice. We were listening to Freshly Ground, the album, and I was like on the birth ball trying to get the baby down, trying to manage the pain in between contractions, listening to my favorite music, and just with the people that I love, because it was my husband, my mom, and Esther and Lucy. And yeah, we just had such a nice moment. Nice moments, because it was taking very, very long. I got so tired.
Yeah.
I thought it should take maximum 10 hours. Girl, when I was at the 12-hour mark, I was like, what is going on? Still at home. 24-hour mark. Please, let's not stop there.
Oh.
36 hours. Then I was just like, as in, actually, what is the point of this thing? I started on Friday. I was still busy in labor on Sunday. And that's when I was just like, okay, guys, at this point, I need to release you guys to go home to your people, because we can't be living like this. And I am tired. I can't even eat properly because I've been in so much pain that I can't live on snack bars, because I was having snack bars in between because the contractions were close and stuff. I was I don't know what's the word, when you're just so tired. Fatigued within my soul. Like, I was so tired. I was getting worried, of course, at that point, because I was like, okay, am I trying to be a hero by having a home birth? Let me stop being a hero. And my mom was hella nervous because she's had 3 crazy births. Like, she induced all of us, and it was wild. So her birth stories are out of this world. And so she's thinking I'm experiencing that type of pain, and she doesn't want to see her baby in that type of pain. And so she was disappearing into the guest room and praying to the Lord that we're both fine. And it just took really, really long. But every time Lucy checked, the baby was fine. It was just taking its time. And I mean, sometimes it does take its time like that.
One thing that I've always been curious about with people who go through home births is if they undergo the continuous cervical checks.
So yeah, you can do those at home, but I just like the gentle approach. Like, they respect you as a person, and that's the thing I didn't experience when we finally decided to go to the hospital. Yeah. So when we got to 40 hours, then I was just like, okay, guys, bopa, like, let's cut this. Let's go to the hospital and do the right thing. And so we did that. My midwife had given me an injection a little bit earlier on to help the labor progress, but I think she had given me like 5 milligrams or something. I'm not sure if it was 5 milligrams, half a milligram, something like that, but there was a 5. And then when I got to the hospital, then they did the cervical checks. They were asking like, what's been going on. At least she got to update them before she had to leave, because they could only allow me in with one person. That was my husband. And so they gave me that same injection, but twice the dose, so like 10 milligrams or something. And I think that was the trick, like that's the thing that got it going, because within 4 hours of being at the hospital, then the baby came. But in that 4 hours, it was the most dramatic 4 hours, because as we were leaving the house, that's when I got into transition. Like, and I didn't realize I was transitioning. I was just vomiting. I was just like, that delirious, I'm crazy now, I'm wild, like I need to. And I think that's what triggered the decision to go to the hospital, because I was getting into transition. I think had I been maybe a little bit more patient, I would have. Yeah. In that 4 hours, that's where I experienced the hospital system, the labor and delivery nurse. She was fine, but she wasn't like as nice as the ward nurses. And then there was the gynae who was on duty that they just threw at me. I mean, obviously I don't know her. Yeah. And she kept calling me the wrong name. I was so pissed. I'm not going to even tell you. No, it's not that bad. It's my English name, and I don't want people to call me my English name. Okay. So I was like, girl, you saw 1, 2, and then you went to the third name. Like, why would you do that? That's the easiest for her to say. And I was like, I'd rather you say my second name. Yeah, that just... I was so pissed. I was just like, you don't call me that. My name is Ofentse. But I was just like in a mood. Yeah. And she was just like in and out, not really paying attention to my needs and what I wanted. I had 3 specific things that I asked for. I was like, I want to keep the placenta. I want it to be a delayed cord clamping. And I wanted, I think at the time I wanted an epidural because I was like, I'm not going to go to the hospital and I'm not going to get pain management, please. So she said, okay, fine, you can get the epidural, but you can't get it now because you're 6 centimeters. You need to be up at 7 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, cool, let's wait. Get me something else. What can I get? Gas. So they get me gas. I get the gas, and then she goes out and she disappears for like an hour and a half. And we're looking, and I'm like, guys, epidural, please now, check now. And then the nurse checks, and she's like, oh, sorry, now you're beyond the point of an epidural. I was so mad. Because I was like, this is the reason why I came here. Like, why? I should have just stayed at home. If you guys were to just give me this injection, and I might as well just stay at home. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so I didn't get my epidural. I didn't get the thingy. But I did, the gas did really distract me a little bit. Yeah, yeah. And eventually it was time to labor. But the thing that annoyed me was that they wanted to monitor the baby so much. So I couldn't move that much as freely as I could at home. And then, yeah, that was part of the system that I really didn't like. I was just like, guys, allow people freedom to move. And then eventually the baby comes. The doctor deemed 1 minute enough for cord clamping. A minute. I was like, lady, I said delayed cord clamp. Do you understand? That means like 30 minutes, nyana, an hour. Like the golden hour, do you not know? Yeah. Do they not teach you this at school? Yeah, she was not about that life. She was just like, cut, let's go. It's enough. 1. 2, what is the other thing I asked for? The placenta we got, thank God. And then she refused for me to birth in the position I wanted to birth in. She like pushed me on my back and she was just like, you stay there. And I was just like, girl, I don't feel comfortable. I don't like this position. And she's just like, no. And then she made me do that pushing thing where I hold my breath and push. And I was just like, but no, that's not what I wanted. Because I wanted to just allow my body to get this baby. That was the thing. So I didn't really like the interaction with the gynae. But after that, like after we got into the ward, then the nurses were so much more gentle and kind and allowed us to have the things that we wanted and desired.
We all have ideas on how we would love to give birth. And when things don't go our way, we feel like we failed somehow. I know I felt that way after delivering my first child via emergency C-section. That feeling of failure, loss of trust in self and in your body, that feeling like I did something wrong hung over me for a long time. I wanted to give birth vaginally, but even with my second child, it never happened. It took me a long time to accept that it wasn't really my fault. Things happen, and that doesn't make me any less of a mother. Listening to Ofentse, I could feel the disappointment in her voice. The birth didn't go as planned, and I wondered if she eventually got over it.
Yeah, it took me a while, but I did. I really did. I think I did when my baby was like 9 months. It took me a while. In fact, it took me a while and I didn't even want to talk about it. Like, it was that bad. I was just like, I don't want to tell anybody about this. I got interviewed by Nicole on her podcast about the birth, and I think it was just like when my baby was 5 months or something. And I spoke about it there, but I was just like, it's just a private podcast. We'll keep it here. But I didn't want to tell people the story because I was so disappointed. I was really disappointed. Yeah, man. Next time we're gonna attempt home again. Yeah. And solve for the factors that led to the delay. So the thing that primarily led to her delay was because of the umbilical cord that was tied up around her leg. Yeah, her leg, not her neck, just her leg. And so every time she tried to go down, it was pulling her back up.
Birth aside, I wanted to know how she settled into motherhood.
Surprisingly, it was such an easy transition. Yeah, it was easy, and I think it was because my mom was here. And I appreciate that lady so much, Mama. I appreciate you honestly, because obviously I was over prepared for this exam of motherhood. The thing I was underprepared for was the sleep, though. I was very much underprepared for that. I thought I was going to follow the strategy of sleep when the baby sleeps, but that's not always possible. And so I was very exhausted, and I didn't know that I was going to experience as much resentment as I did for my husband, because he didn't have the boobies. And I'm the only one that's waking up seven times to feed this child at night. And he's out like a light. He doesn't even hear her cry. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got a little petty labelle in me. Very petty. And so like I'd wake him up. So that we all wake up together in this house. We're all waking up. I don't care what you're doing. We're waking up. Shame, he took it like a soldier. He really did. So like he was on burping duty, so we all wake up, so that it reduces this feeling. But in terms of knowing what to do, knowing how to handle, I had a very good support system, because 6 weeks afterwards, I had regular consultations with both Esther and Lucy. They would come over, check in. I remember I was having issues breastfeeding, of which the help started in the ward in Aga Khan. There was one male nurse that helped me. I don't even know his name, but I just know he's a blessing from God. That really encouraged me to like massage with heat and really help the milk come down, and it really did. And then having to deal with like I've got an H cup, okay, H cup. It's huge, and so I was feeling like it's overwhelming the baby, because like my boob is bigger than her face. And so like I didn't know how to handle that. But like Esther dealt with so many cases like that. She's like, oh yeah, you just do this. You just roll up the towel, you put it underneath, and you do this. Okay. Like just those little tricks that I didn't know about, and having a community of women, or like a support system of women around me, that really helped me with that. And also dealing with like overproduction of milk, because I went from under to over. Like Esther helped a lot with that. My mom was super helpful with the sleepless nights, because she was more than willing to, allow me to sleep for at least 4 hours in a row. And then feed the baby a bottle. Shane, my brother, got me a pump, like from SA. I was like, oh, you're so sweet. And so like when I got that pump, it was a game changer, because then I was actually able to sleep. Just the practicalities of mothering and being there for and nurturing this little baby were made easy for me, because I had a good support system. Even my helper at the time, she came in a couple of days a week to clean, but when the baby was born, I asked her to come in daily. And she was there to help prepare food and make sure that we're all well taken care of, and the house was clean, and and the baby was fed and changed. I didn't experience turmoil in the transition, and I'm very grateful for that. But I also understand the privilege that I had having so much thing. And also mentally, I was prepared in all ways. I knew what was coming up, because I had I'm one of the last of my friends to have babies, so I'd seen the journeys. And also I'm always that one that answers too many questions at baby showers, because I've been studying this stuff. Like when they're like, Ofi, how do you know cradle cap? You don't even have a baby. I'm like, but I know about this thing. So all the little things that come up, I was able to troubleshoot much more easily. And another resource that was super helpful was there was a mom's group, a WhatsApp mom's group, where if I'm having like a question that couldn't be Googled or whatever, or I don't trust Google's answer, then I could just throw into the mom's group, and somebody with experience would share. Yeah.
We will take a short break here, and when we come back, Ofentse talks about the ways motherhood has impacted her life. Welcome back. In this episode, we've been listening to Ofentse. She wanted to be a mom for a very long time, and when she got pregnant, her dream was to have a home birth. But after a 36-hour labor, she decided to go to the hospital to give birth. Despite this rocky beginning to her motherhood, her support system ensured that she settled into it a bit more smoothly. It's been almost 2 years since then, and I was curious to know about the impact that motherhood has had in her life.
You know, one thing I know, it's made me so much more focused in my life. Oh. I used to be such an unfocused hun. Yeah. But like not in a bad way, just like I didn't have a direction. But now I have a baby and I'm like, I want to be an example to her. I want to show her how life could be. I want to explore what's possible and give her the best that's possible. And that's really inspired me to take my business seriously, to show up in a different way. And that's one way that it's impacted me. Another way is being able to connect with other mothers and just like be able to connect on that level with people that we have shared experiences with. And I mean, not that I was never able to connect with my friends that are mothers, but there's a different bond that you have when you guys are like, oh, my nipples are so sore. Yeah, so I think expanding my friendship pool. And another impact that it's had is it's teaching me how to ask for help and stop being hyper independent. I lean into the help in all ways. I've never been that mom that's like, oh, I'm never gonna have a nanny. No. And I knew, because for my mental health, I couldn't even live by myself. Like in terms of taking care of my own little house. Well, not little, the big one. It was a big house, just no children. But I couldn't live like, and then I was just like, and then I'm going to add a child to the mix, and then I'm going to try and be a hero. No, not me. No, I'm not going to be a hero. Yeah. So it really helped me to stop being a hero and to learn how to accept help, and to learn. And it's also impacted me in the sense that now I know how to vocalize my needs. Like I'm more aware of what I need and how to ask for what I need, which is something that I struggled with. And I probably didn't even need to deal with that much as a non-mom. But post my kid, I've had to. Yeah. I think one thing I like about Kenya, one of my favorites, just one of the things that I like, is that it's such a international, metropolitan, well, Nairobi, let me say Nairobi, city, right? And so there's a lot of interracial couples. So I'm in an interracial relationship and my baby's mixed race. And in South Africa, these are things that stand out. Like when I go to a mall with my husband, it's like everybody's turning around and trying to figure out, are they together? What's happening here? Like, is this happening, you know? And it's very rare, not very rare, but in the city that I was in, Johannesburg, it's very rare to see interracial couples. That's more like a Cape Town thing. And so being in Nairobi, I mean, it was so affirming to see a lot of interracial couples and to see them in the little schools that we're taking or the play groups that we're in, and just really knowing that my daughter's going to be affirmed because she's got so many other people that are like her. And she's not going to have to be explaining, oh, is that your mom? Is that your dad? Type of thing, you know? Yeah. So that was something that played a huge role in our move here. So I didn't know it was going to happen, but it was a pleasant surprise. Another thing that I like about Kenya is people aren't afraid to get help around here. And in South Africa, it's like kind of shunned upon. Of course, we have help, but there's this heroism that women carry, that like you'll have a nanny, but you'll still do half the work that the nanny does. For what? And I got a nanny, and I realized that the way that she was trained at the agency was to take care of business. Yeah. And I was like, damn, these people take care of business. I love that. Yeah. I'm so glad, because I don't have to worry about a lot of things. And that was one thing that was different, and I'm grateful that we're here for. And also getting other help, like getting a chef. Eventually, I decided to get a chef so that I don't have a lot on my plate. Yeah. And yeah, that's the thing about Kenya, that people aren't going to look at you, weird and be like, oh, I've got a chef and I've got a nanny. What? Yeah. It's just like, yeah, I need the help. I'm not a hero. You won't find me hanging over the pots at 5 p.m. every day. I can't do that, because I'm also trying to run a business at the same time, be a present mom and a present wife. So the downsides of living out, I mean, I guess it's the not being able to pop into Shosho's house. That would have been nice. I mean, we call Shosho every now and then, like every 2 days max. Like not max every morning, but 2 days space max. So it's the not having family around. Another downside is probably what? Wait, the cost of birth is made up in the cost of education in this country. That's where it's made up. That's where they make the monies. Yeah. The schools are busy. Yeah. So like for me that was a shock, right? Mm-hmm. So like what we pay for the school is double what we would have paid in South Africa, right? So like she goes to the playgroup, and it's a lot. But that's also one of the things that we had to consider. And I was just like, okay, cool. People in Kenya clearly value education. And so they were going to have to pay for it. Yeah. That was a surprise. What else was a negative? I don't really think of a lot of negatives of living in Kenya because it's all been so good. Maybe okay, I guess it's also for me language exposure, right? Because I speak Zulu to my baby. The dad speaks Bulgarian and then she learns English from school. But like obviously English is her strongest language because that's what everybody else speaks. Yeah. And for me, my desire was to have my daughter speak Zulu primarily or Bulgarian primarily as her first language and then English come later. But because we're here, there's nobody who's out here speaking Zulu to my baby except me, right? Yeah. So I've had to just sacrifice that part. But it's also helped me to be more intentional with my Zulu speaking and not defaulting and allowing others to take over. So that language development of a trilingual kid.
Yeah. Before we wrapped up, I asked her what she was looking forward to in her journey.
I'm looking forward to more babies. Ooh. I am 3 in total. Okay, so we have 1 on the way. Announcement. Hello, hi. Congratulations. Yeah. Super excited. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to raising him or her. I don't know where we're at. But like for me, because I've always wanted motherhood as part of my titles, I'm super excited and looking forward to having siblings for Miss Paris and her being a little big sister. Yeah. She's so precious. Like she's always gonna be my baby, but like every time I look at her, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're gonna be a big sister. Because the way my mom describes it, because I'm 2 years apart from my brother, the way she describes it, I was anticipating his arrival. Oh really? Yeah, like I was so excited. I even claimed that I was pregnant with him. Because like my mom's tummy was big and then she was like, yeah, there's a baby, his name is Lemogang. And I was like, yeah, I've got Lele in my tummy. And like when he came I was excited, like even those little out of the hospital photos, like I was thrilled and I was excited to be a big sister. The one I didn't like was my little sister. And I didn't like her for a very long time. Actually, it was unhealthily long. I didn't like her for like 5 or 6 years. It was bad. The thing that helped me to switch, and I love her to death today, was I had a bad dream that she was attacked or something. And in that dream, I thought I'd lost her. Things changed immediately. Wow. Like from that day, I stopped being a meanie. I stopped taking her money. I stopped taking, like, girl, I used to be so wrong. So wrong. Like my poor sister would get her pocket money and give it all to me so that I could play with her. I know. She bought my attention. It's okay, get that. I've paid her back now, though. The things we did. But honestly, I think it was just a call for attention, right? Like we just really wanted to be seen. And our moms didn't have the capacity to always see us. They tried their best. So, I mean, I've been watching a lot of online content about how to handle or how to avoid sibling rivalries and stuff. And I think one of the things that stood out for me was when the baby arrives, you must never blame the baby for anything. So don't be like, oh, mommy can't do this because the baby must sleep, or mommy must do this because... No, leave the baby out of the things. Like, rather say, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes or I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'm going to be with you. Mommy wants to hold you and the baby type of thing. Like, so I'll never pit them against each other. I wonder if it will happen unconsciously, but I will try my best. One thing that has sobered me up as a life coach is understanding that life one is not perfect. And we are not meant to be perfect parents. No. In fact, I feel like the parenting journey, you're supposed to have adversity as a person for your own development. So my goal is never to be a perfect parent. And my goal is also to show my imperfections to my baby and be like, oh, this is how I'm dealing with this particular imperfection. So that she can also accept herself. Like, I think my entire goal in both my marriage and in my parenting is the goal of unconditional love and unconditional positive regard and complete and total acceptance of who you are, flaws and all, and myself too. Like I start with loving and accepting myself. And so, like, I'm so okay with making mistakes. I'm so okay with shouting when I didn't intend to shout. I'm so okay with getting the baby book things wrong, because now I know that it's not gonna be that big of a deal. No matter how hard I try, she's still gonna be in therapy, and she's still gonna find a life coach to get her life on track. Like, no matter how hard I try, like, I'll show up as best as I can, and I'm never gonna make it mean anything about me if she has any problems later in life, because it's life, you know. I can't take that stuff personally.
I want to thank Ofentse for sharing her story with us. She lives in Nairobi, Kenya with her husband and their baby girl Paris and the little munchkin that's on the way. She is a transformation life coach and podcaster. So if you're interested in her work, please check out her Instagram at Ofentse. I will leave a link to that in the show notes of this episode. Next week, we will dive into the Holiday Survival Guide series, a set of episodes that I've designed to guide us through this holiday season. In the first episode, we will dive into what to do with our kids now that they're out of school and schedules have changed. I want to thank everyone who supported this podcast so far. Your support means everything to me, so please receive your flowers. If you want to support the show too, please feel free to do that. Think about it like buying me a cup of Java Dawa to keep me strong when I edit in these rainy nights. You'll also be doing me a solid by sharing this podcast with someone that you think will find value in it. That's it for now. Catch you in the next one. Bye.